Hi Denisha, Amy here. I got some feedback for you. I do think that this draft has come a long way, so I commend you for that and your hard work and your revision. And I think with just a few more tweaks, this could be a truly excellent argument. So just a couple of nitpicky things here in the beginning. I do think it would be best if you could get your title up onto one line. So I would just move this up like that, and it should all fit there so that would just make it a little smoother. You actually don't need the indent of the first paragraph for some reason. It's just kind of a nitpicky thing again. I'll also talk a little bit about your works cited while we're on the formatting. Everything looks really good. Since I took that line out, it moved it up. But it's actually Academic Search Premier, not Academic Research Premier. So just search there. And then none of this information needs to be italicized, only the actual title there needs to be italicized. And instead of the PG there, you would want to move this to after the date and use a colon instead of the abbreviation PG. So then just take the italics off of that. So this is how it should look. And this should be a comma. Okay, so I hope that makes a little more sense to you. Let me see. And you actually don't need any words like issue. If I see a number there before a parentheses and I know MLA, I know that's the issue number. These look okay. These look okay. You know, some of these it looks like you probably should have some volume issue number things there. So you might just want to double check those and see if that information was available to you. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I think that this is some good background information to establish the context and the exigency of your issue. This is a good quote to include, and I would just say that this needs to be a semicolon here because you have a complete sentence beforehand and you have a complete sentence following, and so a comma really isn't strong enough to hold that together. And then this second half of the paragraph, I really felt like maybe all of this was your thesis, because it really starts out with the counter argument here and then some points, it seems like, but they're pretty general and not directly attached to your proposal within the same sentence. So to me, it doesn't feel like all of this should be your thesis. I think you should just leave this as kind of some background discussion and leave it the way it is, and then start with this proposal statement here in this final sentence and attach to that your surprising reversal. And now I'm seeing here that you do have the points mentioned in your thesis, but they're not addressed here as problems. So something like, you know, because of the high costs of childcare and health care and lack of parental leave, the leaders of the U.S., and you might even want to be more specific there. And say who needs to implement these programs. Do you think Congress should, for example? And also I think you could state your proposal more directly in terms of a call to action, like we should do this, instead of just we could learn a valuable lesson if we did. So I'm not even sure that you need this statement here. I think it would be more effective to address this in more of a surprising reversal structure, which I'll come back to in just a second. But if you just said something here like the U.S. must implement programs that could assist with. And then if you've already said childcare, healthcare, and lack of parental leave, you don't have to mention those things directly here, but just you could say in general with the costs associated with starting a family. And then you have it set up so that these are actually problems. These aren't part of the solution. This is justifying why the solution needs to be enacted. And we'll come back to that. That'll be an issue kind of throughout the argument that I'll keep referring to. So I think emphasizing it this way in your thesis will kind of set you up from the beginning to more successfully develop the problem first. And then I also mentioned that you might want to address your counter argument using surprising reversal. And so I'm a little bit torn. Is this your surprising reversal counter argument, or is this your surprising reversal counter argument? I think that what other countries are doing is more closely related to your proposal, as in we should emulate what those countries are doing. To me, it seems like the bigger counter argument that people are going to have in their head right from the start is that status quo argument, that the way things are right now is fine. And so I would just restate this point directly at the beginning of your thesis using an although statement or some kind of reversal transition. So although, actually you wouldn't need a comma yet, although many people believe that it's easy to start a family in America, or something like that. You can be a little more specific about what you mean by easy, for example, or like it's financially possible in the first place. So although many people believe that it's easy or financially attainable to start a family in America because of the high cost of childcare and healthcare and lack of parental leave, the leaders of the U.S., whoever you want that to be, must implement programs that would assist with the high costs associated with starting a family. So this way your proposal directly responds to your counter argument, and you have the reasons to justify the problem first. And then these topic sentences that you already have, which are awesome, are going to connect to your thesis because you've used that same language, the ever-rising cost of daycare, the high cost of daycare, in both places. And so that will like echo in your reader's ear and really help them follow along. However, one thing we're going to see as I get deeper into your discussion is that I kind of feel like the order of your points could be more logical if you rearranged them so that the point about leave comes first. Because if you don't have a job and you're not going to go back to work once your leave is up, then you don't need childcare. So I think it would make more sense to address first that, you know, parents have to work and they're not getting these 2 years of leave like you see in other countries like Canada, for example. So the leave runs out, which is what you say in the later paragraph, and then they have to go back to work. And then logically, the next step is then high cost of childcare. So I think maybe even in your thesis, you could rearrange that because of the lack of parental leave and high costs of childcare and healthcare, the leaders of the U.S. must implement programs. And then I would say you can take that whole paragraph about the lack of leave and move it up before your first, what is now your first point about childcare, okay? And then that will become your second, not your first reason. And then instead of finally here, you would say the first reason. And then you would go to your healthcare paragraph and make that your final. So like one final reason. And I know it might seem like this is violating the strongest reason last, second strongest reason first, weakest reason in the middle rule, but that really is only applicable if there's not some other more logical way to order your points, and I think in this case there is. So going back to that point about leave, this was definitely one place where I felt like you were focusing more on the solution than the problem within what should have been a problem paragraph. So if the first problem is the lack of leave, you spend most of this paragraph talking about what other countries are doing, like New Zealand, for example, and then down here, Spain. And to me, that's more like solution stuff because that's what we should be doing based on what they're doing. Like here's an example of what one country is doing that we could emulate or that we could follow or learn from. And that's more action oriented as opposed to justifying the problem that exists first to motivate your reader to want to implement some of these actions that you're talking about here. So I think where your focus more should be is actually on what you're saying at the end of this paragraph about FMLA in the United States and the fact that we don't have enough leave for parents after they have a kid, and then they do have to use their personal or vacation time or they just straight up have to go back to work, and then that will lead nicely into your child care paragraph. And so develop this more about why what we have now is not good enough, and then move all this stuff about the other countries and what we should be doing, like what they are doing, into your later proposal paragraph, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And then also, when this was your first point about childcare, I had this comment here, but I'm going to move it up because this is no longer where it will go. Up here, right after your intro, if you're going to be using surprising reversal in your thesis, like I have revised this to say right here, you would need to add that paragraph after the intro in paragraph developing your counter argument. So you would go straight from this thesis into a paragraph that says, many people do believe that it's easy to start a family in America, or many people believe this is financially attainable, and then kind of expound on that and wallow in the complexity of why somebody might think that things are okay the way they are right now, maybe what programs are in place and that kind of thing. And then you will kind of reverse it by saying, but it's still not enough, and then go right into your problems. The first reason why they need to be implemented is because there's no leave for these parents, and then so on with the rest of your reasons. So that's a much more logical and effectively persuasive way to structure things. So just make sure that if you're going to have this surprising reversal statement that you add that paragraph. Okay, so then you're going to have your first point about leave, take out some of this stuff about what other countries are doing and move it into your later proposal paragraph, then focus this paragraph more on why leave in the United States isn't enough. Then your second point will be about childcare. This is a very well-developed paragraph. One thing you could do is connect back to childcare directly at the end of the paragraph to wrap up. You do a great job mentioning your proposal here, but it would just be a little tighter if you directly stated something about childcare right there. So, you know, why is America so behind in this particular area? Because of the high cost of childcare, standards need to be raised, ... Okay, and then you have a good topic sentence, again, for your paragraphs. There were a couple places where I felt like you needed more citations. You know, you might say studies show this, or this hasn't worked, but you don't really provide a source for that. So, for example, right in this whole section, you don't have any citations until more toward the end. So all of this needs to be cited. Specifically, you say that the PPACA has fallen short of its suggested promises and has become a topic of much debate. Well, how do you know that? Where are you getting this from? And then also all the background information here. This is not common knowledge. You do need to cite it. And then good job with your block quotes. And then there were, again, a couple sentences in these other points as well where I felt like you were focusing more on proposal stuff. So here, saying what we can do, or hopefully we can move toward this in the future and mirror some other countries. That kind of stuff needs to go in your proposal section, not here where you're developing the problem. And then you could state your solution a little more directly as you wrap up this paragraph. So they're in need globally of substantial research and solutions. We'll say your solution here directly from your thesis to wrap up the paragraph. And then this will become your proposal section, okay? It does need a couple more citations. You're going to bring in all that stuff about what the other countries are doing from here and that paragraph earlier that I had moved around into your proposal section. And basically everything from here up plus that stuff that you're going to move in is going to be your proposal section. And then you can take just these last two sentences and attach them to a direct restatement of your thesis, like just exactly as you had it in your intro, and that will be your conclusion. The conclusion is really just a short paragraph where you wrap up all your points and your central claim and offer some reflection. So I think the reflection is here in these last two sentences, and just attaching it to your direct thesis will make that a true conclusion paragraph here. And then all of this will be the kind of foundation for your proposal section, and then add in the stuff about what other countries are doing that we could be learning from. And that will be a much more, again, logical way to develop your problem first and then your solution. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all of my comments, and I hope that made sense to you. And again, I do think it's come a long way, but just with a little more polishing, it's going to be extremely persuasive. So good luck, and let me know if you have any more questions. Thank you.